Hi, my name is Vanessa Agard. Welcome to Rise Maximum Radio podcast. We are giving the world the opportunity of hearing and seeing real life testimonies on how the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service has been transforming lives. So feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you. This morning I have with me Stacey-ann Beckles. Good morning to you, Stacey. How are you?
Good morning, Miss Agard. I am above and escalating in my state this morning. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. But let me correct myself. Reverend Stacey-ann Beckles.
Yes.
I love that.
Wow, what a name, what a name.
Yes. Now, I know you're going to give us your life journey from prison to outside of prison.
Yeah.
But the first question I want to ask, tell our listening audience, what's, about your life in prison?
Well, good morning to our listening audience. Well, Vanessa, it's Vanessa, right?
Yes.
I can call you Vanessa as we're chatting. You hear the title Reverend, but it came with a cost.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being an inmate of the Trinidad and Tobago Women's Prison. Mentally, it was a challenge. Physically, it was never that hard because you were never beaten, you were never hurt, you just get yourself in play for what you came to do. I remember coming into prison in 2010, the 6th of December, with a sentence to serve hard labor for drug trafficking, not knowing where my life will go from there. It started off rocky because, as I said, mentally, I left children, I left a common-law husband, I left family, friends, even enemies outside. But all I was thinking about was freedom. Freedom, physical freedom. I want to get out, I want to get out. So for a few months, mentally, I was very broken. Very broken. I was just going through the motion, getting up, eating, bathing, not doing anything until, I remember one officer, she's now retired, she asked about programs.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I will say that was my breaking point into getting into what God had already set in motion for me. So, a lot of times I hear people talk about rehabilitation, and I will say this, I will jump ahead a bit. In prison, or behind the bars, as some say, you must want rehabilitation.
Correct.
And it is afforded to every inmate, client, whatever you want to call us or them. Because I remember being there for a few months not doing anything. For those who don't know, I had appealed my case, so I had to wait in remand. And I got back the same time. I lucky I didn't get more. But fate will have it that programs was my escape, to be honest.
Programs. Now, a lot of people underestimate what, programs, what they do there. Now, I will come to my second question by asking, how does programs and persons assist you, the programs department? So how the programs department, and, of course, you'll have your people there to assist you in transforming. Now, I remember before we even answer that question, I remember you being in the prison as the reception orderly.
Yes, that is correct.
One thing I always remember, you being a very humble person.
Yes.
I was working and you would come and say, would you like a cup of coffee? And you had a way to say it.
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
I remember you. So my memory of you was always working hard, praying a lot. So when I heard Reverend, you could imagine how I felt when I heard that name.
Yes.
And it's a title well deserved.
Yes.
So the programs department, tell us a bit on what they have done while you were in prison that helped into your transformation.
Well, I love that question. A lot of times I was outside one time in the Joint Select Committee speaking on prison reform. And I remember walking out of the Hyatt at the time, they kept it there. Someone asked me about programs, does it really have that? And I said, but you're looking at the results of programs. Now, I went to prison, for those who are listening, with no CXC. Because I wasn't on school, I was on taking people money, being with bad man, lying down on your back, doing all the things that society call ill to make a dollar. I'll do 1 or 2 odd jobs, but I want a quick money. But when I came to prison, as I said before, my mental capacity was in a mess. All of us studies, my baby, I left home 2 years and some months, my big 2 children, and the man that I had then loved, who is now deceased. And one day I remember the officer saying, programs, those coming to speak to me, her name was Miss Charles at the time, and other officers, too much to mention. I guess at the end of this program, I'll give a shout out to some of them.
Of course.
And they said, Beckles, don't you want to try your CXC? I said, no, miss. That was the start of a new beginning for me. I did 5 CXC subjects. 5. Maths, English, Social Studies, EDPM, Office Administration. What a blast. I started to feel equal. I was afforded white electrical level 1. I was the valedictorian in that class. I learned to do lights, lots of things, small appliances. I went on to do business course, which was given by Spiritual Arms as Prison Fellowship. I was in the top 3 in entrepreneurship, which I now have my own NGO, my own boutique. So programs played an integral role in shaping the woman that I am today. Let's not forget, the most important thing was the spiritual programs. When the Shouter Baptists will come in, the Spiritual Baptist, Prison Fellowship, the Muslim, the Hindu, there was no religion. There was only love and acceptance. Acceptance from the people that came in. And it is in there, constantly going to different programs, I started to find myself. I never used to smile. There was beauty pageants. I entered. I was the people's choice. I won best outfit. You remember that?
Yes.
Talent, best talent. All that shaped my mindset to be the woman that I am today. It was programs, because I will say this to our listening audience. There's an old saying, you can take the horse to water, but they don't have to drink. One must want rehabilitation. I desired rehabilitation. I desired it full 100. I gleaned at the educational aspect. I grasped at the spiritual aspect more than ever, because I was broken. And a lot of women coming to the prison, and men broken. Something's missing. And the prison afforded me a little of everything that made me the holistic whole woman that I am today. Programs played an integral part. And to add more to it, to add the honey to the tea, there were officers that pushed me to be the woman that I am. Beckles, you can do it. Beckles, you will do it. I couldn't believe at the age of 30 plus I was doing CXC at this very said prison, MSP. Yes, I was eager to become something greater than a woman with a drug lord man, or a woman driving a Mercedes and getting licks. I found me even in the prison, and programs had an integral role to play in it. Officers will spend their money. Sometimes when your family can't come in time, because let me say something to people. You could have the world. Prison is a place for you, God, and the devil. You have to choose.
You have to choose, and I agree with that.
And I have chosen God. And God came in the form of officers, senior. At the time, you were a green man. But yet I showed you the respect, because respect is earned.
Yes,
you respected people. It was all about making the holistic woman. Programs was integral for me. Today, it now stands even further, as we will hear in this program.
Yes, it has been quite a lot.
Yes.
So we spoke about your life in prison. Tell us about your life after prison, because we know there are people who had difficulties
Definitely.
get back into society before they they have a lot of challenges. So tell us, what were your challenges? What were your difficulties?
One of my challenges, I will say to you, Vanessa, was that of not knowing how to adapt without the crutches. Crime is crutches.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to work. I didn't have the drug lord child father again to give me money or to support me, but I had love. I had God. It was not easy. I will mention someone's name here that is no longer on the earth living, Mr. Brian Wayne Chance. Mr. Chance gave me my first job as a case officer at Vision on Mission, where I started to find myself, because it was not easy to get a job. You had to have certificate of character to even sweep the road.
Yes.
The jobs were hard. At the times you look back at your past life and say, I think I'm going to go back and lie down on my back. I'm going to keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
At times I think I'm going to go and check the former drug man down the road, because the help is not out there as people portray. The church is trying, but there's so much the spiritual arm can do. We needed the corporate people to be involved, to know this is a former inmate. She's coming out. She may not have money to get a certificate of character. Let's give her a chance. We needed all hands on deck to give that full rehabilitation. it was challenging. But I thank God for people like Mr. Chance, may he rest in peace, and his team. I thank people like Dr. Daniel Parks, Prison Fellowship, that took me in as a volunteer, that now I sit on the board of directors, giving back to all 9 institutions, including Claxton Bay the 10th.
Now, remember, I see you as ECRC.
Mhm.
So you had one of the prison where you
Yes.
with, of course, with Wayne Chance.
Yes.
And you spoke.
Yes.
And I sat there, I was really proud of you. Because I knew you had it. I knew you had it in you. I knew from the very start meeting you and the way you used to carry out yourself. And I saw you there, was really proud of you. I don't know if you can remember that.
Of
It was
course.
some years back. And Vision on Mission played a very important role as well.
Yes.
Tell me about the difficulties. I know that you mentioned earlier on about a daughter and 2 sons.
Yes.
Tell me about that your life with them. Now,
Well, to be corrected, 1 son and 2 daughters.
1 son.
So I left the baby at 2. When I came out, she was 7.5. This child was now facing murder because she saw her father murdered. I came out 10 weeks after he was murdered to hold my daughter that I left at 2. And I say again, we go back to prisons. Let's step back to prisons and programs. There is the Mother's Day program that Prison Fellowship, in collaboration with the nation's prison, and the Father's Day program, that helped me to build a bond with my baby that I left home. That is part of programs, because there were times mothers were crying. I was crying when she had to leave. Then the program department with the officers, seniors, gave me the opportunity to get phone calls from my 2 children that lived abroad. Now that relationship when I came out was a bit strained. Here why. My son and daughter in the United States didn't know how to tell me their hurts, how disappointed they were in me, how hurt. It was God and time that brought healing. And we still have our rough days, but with God, all things are possible. My last daughter that the prison afforded me to see every year through Mother's Day and Christmas, through the PFTT Angel Tree program, we build a bond, but she's so much isolated still. But again, with God and time, all things are possible. It is a strain, but I'm rebuilding the walls that has been broken by separation through crime.
Now, I've listened to all your accomplishments. Now, you said that, you're a reverend. Tell us about, you mentioned your religious background.
Yes.
But give us some more information on, how your daily life is now, because I know you're very busy.
All things work together for good. I will say this. Now, I mentioned when I came in prison, I had no CXC. Programs department made sure that they never push it down my throat, but they make sure I was well equipped academically, mentally, socially, and spiritually, because every program was afforded to become the whole woman that I wanted to become. So I went on to the university, I did criminology, and I went on, I got a scholarship. I have my master's and my bachelor's in theology from the Psycho University in Canada. I became the president of CUPCAM, which is the Council of Prison Chaplain and Ministers, overseeing spiritual arms in the prisons. Mm-hmm. I now sit on the board of directors of Prison Fellowship, another strong arm in the prison. I also have my own NGO, Women of Transformation. I also have a mentorship program that I carry on with young people, finding themselves, more so young women I target. I have my own boutique online selling accessories, beautifying the outer woman, and also being a minister of the gospel. I travel wherever God sends me, whatever nation, to preach the gospel and to redeem souls by my testimony of being incarcerated, being a victim of abuse, and so many different things that collaborated to being incarcerated. But I never regret one day saving my time. Paul says in the Word of God, it would be remiss of me as a minister not to say this. He said, in all things give thanks, not for, but in prison I gave thanks. Now I see what was the plan and the purpose. It was bigger than the eyes and the heart could attain. So that's my life. I'm always busy.
Now, I've seen that you have been giving back
Yes.
to society, which is excellent, and I commend you on that.
Thank you.
So to our listening audience, to the ones that are listening to us, what advice would you tell them?
To our listening audience, to our business people, to our pastors, our priests, our pundits, our imams, to our community leaders, as we say, to our neighbors, our shopkeepers, to our landlords, our families, support is imminent. support is needed to bring the full holistic rehabilitation we are looking for. We need all hands on deck. If there were no Wayne Chance, if there were no prison fellowship, Dr. Parks, if there were no former officers who stretched their pockets to even help me when I came out or where to live, if there was no pastor to take me in because I had to live by a pastor until I got my own house, we need all hands on deck to lessen recidivism in our country and to stop what we think is an epidemic crime. Because I had a choice to go back to that life or to serve God, which is serving my people by doing what was right, what I was taught in the nation's prison. So get on board, get on board. And for the woman or the man that is thinking of doing crime, it might be for your good, because the Bible tells us in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to them that love God. So sometimes coming to prison might be for your good, because it might be the last warning. For me, it was the warning before death, and God gave me another chance. But for some, it will be the end. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. True freedom is discipline. True freedom is discipline. When you can discipline your thoughts, your words, and your deeds, you are truly free. And I will tell everyone that. I'll leave it at that. Yes.
So we want to thank you for joining us here today on Rise Maximum Radio. It's always a pleasure. Again, I am extremely proud, and I know the entire Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service, they are proud of you at all your accomplishments.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for Rise Maximum Radio having me. It's such an honor to come back and say, look what the Lord has done. And there are many Stacey-ann in the nation's prison. Many Vanessa Agard, officers that are willing to see rehabilitation at its highest peak and restorative justice at its highest peak. Let's all put our hands in the plow and get to working. Thank you.
Now you mentioned that you have some shout-outs.
Yes. So I want to shout out a few officers that stood out to me. Now, I will say this, if your name hasn't been called, it's not that you were not good to me, I cannot remember it, but I love you all. I want to shout out to Miss Albino Jacob Lutz, one of my mothers, Miss Shamin Johnson, very strong but kind woman, Miss Shamin Danton, Miss Vanessa Agard, Miss Desiree Wilson, Miss Judy Garcia, Miss Wendy from Infirmary, Miss Stanley Augustus, so many people, Miss Thomas in the kitchen, now I think she's here. And there are so many, Mr. Scanterbury and others, the Commissioner of Prisons, that always gives me the support that I need. Former Commissioner, Mr. Wilson, current Commissioner. These are all people who saw me in the trenches and know that greatness was ahead. Too much to mention, Mr. Sherwin Bruce, Mr. Karaspi, people who are now lift my hands to be the woman that I ought to be. So much officers. I cannot forget my spiritual brother. We shared the same stage recently at the Jimpia Complex, Mr. Bumpat, and spiritual aspect. So I thank God for all these people. If your name hasn't been called, Miss Ferreira, Miss Jazz, we love you. And thank you for being a part of this restorative bliss. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Reverend.
Yes.
Beckles. Let me just.
It's nice to be here.
So so you heard from Reverend Beckles, her life story in prison and after prison. So I'm going to ask you the question once again. Does rehabilitation work? Well, you be the judge. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.